Well, this is clearly the government's big move before elections. We're looking at a 10% quota for the economically weaker upper caste. More reservation here for the economically weaker sections. And this new bill, which is to raise the existing reservation quota by 10%, and now it is going to cater to upper caste as well. This is specifically, of course, to the economically weaker. We have with us our news editor Tanvi getting us further inputs here on this. Tanvi, take us through those details here, because this of course is going to be a long drawn out process in first getting that sanction to increase the bracket of reservation and then ensure it for the economically weaker upper caste here.
So, sir, we have to keep in mind that the current quota limit, reservation limit, is 50% legally speaking because of a Supreme Court verdict. What the government is seeking to do now, and we are told has been cleared by the cabinet, is a bill that will increase the reservation quota to 60%. So, to come up with a new legislation that first will hike the reservation limit to 60%. This additional 10%, we understand, will not be for a backward class or a backward caste, as it is defined in our country. Will actually be for economically weak but upper caste category people. So that is why it is being seen as a big election move just 3-4 months before this country goes for general elections. The government has come out with this massive announcement. There has been a huge debate that has been raging on. Many smaller castes which are not considered backward otherwise have been protesting individually in different states of our country, demanding for quota for them. So you've seen from Marathas in Maharashtra to Patidars in Gujarat, who've been saying that they are not economically strong anymore, that they themselves need this reservation. Now, we will have to wait to see what the definitions are, who will be included, but suffice to say that this will be for the upper caste, economically weaker or backward category of citizens, and the government will of course have to come up with a clearer definition of who will be eligible for this. All of that you can expect to be in the bill that we understand they may just want to push through tomorrow itself, since tomorrow is the last day of this session, sir.
That's right. And Tanvi, this of course is also going to be going against the existing Mandal Commission, which in fact ascertains the caste, the backward caste, to be availing of reservation justifiably here. This is going to be going against that very philosophy of what the Mandal Commission was set up for. This is going to be a whole new argument now, something that Mayawati had tried to bring in Uttar Pradesh as well during her rule, but couldn't stand court scrutiny on having that reservation now for the upper caste, but those that are economically weak.
That whole debate again, Seher, whether now in our country the reservation should be caste dependent or should it be for people who are genuinely from the economically weaker section. That debate has always come to the fore every time you talk about even an SC/ST reservation, that many of these benefits actually go to people who don't need it. But let me just also take you through some more details that have come. We understand the criteria will be people. This reservation will be for government jobs and education for people with less than 8 lakhs as annual income. So that's the economic definition. Of course, there will be more conditions to this, but the first one that we are getting is that your annual income will have to be less than 8 lakhs. This reservation will apply to government jobs and education, and the criteria is that with more than 5 lakh acre land, those will be exempted. So if you have land which is bigger than that, you will not be eligible for this, or a house above 1,000 square feet, you will then also not be eligible for this. So these are some of the details that are now emerging to give us a better clarity on how the government defines this economically weaker section within the upper caste. Seher, I believe we've also got Mandar now joining us for more insights.
Yes, stay on with us. We're also going to be getting in our colleague, senior news editor Mandar Fanse, with further inputs here on how the government plans to go about this. We've already gotten a first reaction here that's coming from the Congress. It has called this new quota pre-poll gimmick. That's what exactly what the opposition has chosen here to establish this as. And this tweet, this first reaction that is coming from the Congress spokesperson, Rajya Sabha MP Abhishek Manu Singhvi, I beg your pardon, saying that as well, that this is just a pre-poll gimmick. Mandar, help us understand, how is the government expected to go about this, that bill that is further going to be thrashed in both houses of parliament before it goes ahead, if at all, whether it can stand the scrutiny in courts, whether it can legally stand the scrutiny as per reservation terms and conditions, so to say, that have already been set by the Mandal Commission?
Absolutely, we need to understand it has got a very complicated backdrop to it, and remember on 25th of September 1991, PV Narasimha Rao government has declared such kind of a similar reservation based on the economically backward criteria, but that has not stand in the court of law. Especially Supreme Court has struck it down on 16th November 1992. So that shows how fragile this kind of a situation is, especially when it comes to economically backward classes, and giving them some kind of SOPs, especially into understanding them as a socially or economically backward. Then again, the competition for this particular 10% becomes a very complicated competition when it comes to various castes in the OBC section itself. We also know that accommodating all the demands from various castes, especially the demands like Maratha reservation or Jat reservation, or for that matter Patel reservation, which is a new kind of a phenomenon in especially in India, where the people having land masses, people having the backdrop of agrarian culture, they are also started demanding this kind of a reservation, and they happens to be the people from the upper caste ladder, and therefore this situation is very dicey, and therefore going back to the history of reservations and quota reservations which were declared earlier, this seems very difficult that such kind of a EBC amendment will also stand. They can do the amendment, but of course it will be challenged. In the Indrasani case also the same kind of situation was there, and therefore it was challenged and struck down by the Supreme Court at that time. So offering any class a reservation based on the EBC will be very difficult.
Yes, stay on with us, please. Very quickly, taking our viewers through here, this latest reaction now that's coming from the main opposition, the Congress party. Of course, we're going to be playing out that exact text of Abhishek Manu Singhvi's tweet here on your screens, very clearly wanting to call this as a pre-poll gimmick. You cannot exceed 50% maxima, so it is done only to posture that you tried, and do you have the majority for this to go ahead? Are the questions already being asked by the Congress? Of course, there are going to be other political parties asking this, regional parties per se, of course, who could come up saying that other castes in their given state would also require reservation here. But Mandar, we've seen to an extent how this has already played out in Uttar Pradesh. At the time when Mayawati was in power, she had tried to push for this thought of giving reservation to the Brahmins belonging to the economically weaker section. She had tried very hard to push through it, but of course it could not stand scrutiny through the system here. How is it going to play out now when you have a central government pushing for the same?
Absolutely, especially the quota and the reservation itself is a big election gimmick. We all see that how the Indian politics is completely woven around this kind of scenario of offering reservations to various caste sections and finding out their own inbuilt unrest into it. But at the same time, we must understand that such kind of amendment also will have to be taken into consideration, the ratification of the states as well. So states also will have to, at least 50% states will have to back up such kind of a big decision, and therefore this decision itself will be considered obviously at the backdrop of a decision being taken at the backdrop of the elections, and since it's a long process, it will not happen immediately post the amendment that people will start benefiting whatever has been written in that particular detail, which possibly government will still come up with more light. But this will be certainly challenged in the court of law, and as we know, in the 1991 also the same kind of a situation was there when Congress has come up with such kind of a decision.
And this is, of course, along two lines here on why, Mandar, it's going to be difficult. If we could understand that better. One, of course, being it changes the dynamics of what the calculation for which particular group the reservation has been ascertained for. This time around, it's going to be for the upper caste. And secondly, it needs to go now beyond the 50% bracket for reservation that already exists.
Absolutely. Again, terming it for one particular caste or over one particular set of caste per se for upper caste in the hierarchy itself will be very difficult for the government to stand it in the court of law, because there is nothing such situation which is explained in the constitution that it will benefit only to the upper caste. If it is EBC, then EBC has to also considered from the other caste also, that those castes may not be so to say upper caste in the hierarchy of the caste structure. So it will be very, very difficult and very, very fragile to stay in the court of law, and it will be definitely challenged by various aspects, and therefore the government will have to come up with a very clear and clearer picture while announcing all these things and doing the amendments further.
All right, stay with us, please. We're going to be getting further reactions here from prominent voices. Let's get in a word here from Mr. Kancha Ilaiah, well-known activist for the Dalits, with us on the phone line. Appreciate you being with us. Your first reaction on the government's desire now to also look into the plight of the economically weaker section of society within the upper caste here.
Well, this is definitely a positive step. And once the law is passed, this 50% ceiling will be overcome. And several sections, for example, the Jats, the Gujars, and the Patels, and in certain areas there is this minority question. So they all come under that if they have below that prescribed income level. So that's welcome. But along with this, there are other issues in the reservation area. For example, Telangana government has been asking for 65% for SC/STs itself, because the number has gone up here. And
Right.
Other states, a similar problem is there. I think the whole thing has to be now looked at comprehensively, and a comprehensive law, putting all these things in the 9th schedule, as it happened in Tamil Nadu situation, has to be brought about. Otherwise, they will be stuck down.
Right.
See, unless it goes to 9th schedule, they will not remain on status, because somebody will go to Supreme Court and court will set it aside. That has happened earlier. So it has to be a very systematically done thing.
That's right. Nothing that the government of the day could do so independently, but we'll have to stand scrutiny of the courts here eventually. Mr. Kancha Ilaiah, please stay on with us. We're getting in other voices here as well.